Here we go. All right, so this is our first Zoom chat, maybe first of many, we don't know, for our Foundations of Emergent or Elementary Literacy? Foundations of Literacy. My name is Katie Deering. On all the message boards, it's Catherine forever, but I go by Katie. So just a little bit about me, and then I'll hand it over to Michelle. I teach 11th and 12th grade at a career tech school. My kids, I teach English 3, AP English 4, creative writing, things like that. And they get to take all sorts of really cool classes like robotics and culinary and all the fun things. So I'm like kind of the drag, I guess, of their schedule. They get to go to robotics and then come to English. But, I actually have 3 years of experience in third grade teaching writing, science, and social studies. So this class is kind of touching on a couple of those little things for me, but I'm really excited. So that's me. What about you, Michelle?
My name is Michelle Ener. On the message boards and stuff, it says Ryan Michelle Ener. I don't go by it, obviously, because of the mix-ups, even though it's 2017. I am still very new to education. I'm going into my third year of teaching. I decided to go ahead and get my master's out of the way because I knew I wanted to be a reading coach. Awesome. So I've taught 7th grade writing my first year. This last year I taught 7th grade reading and writing. And this next year I'm actually going to be teaching English 1 to freshmen, which I'm
coming to the dark side.
Yeah, I'm really excited about being at the high school level. On the other hand, I also tutor third graders. Well, they're going into third grade, and I've started that this summer. And this class is, even though it just started, just the readings that we've already done has helped me in tutoring them. So I'm really excited about it.
Cool. Well, Michelle, I think that we both kind of come from an interesting perspective, because I know in getting my degree and all of that, like getting a secondary education degree, a lot of my classes were way more content driven, and they were about learning about figurative language and how to write an essay. And it wasn't the breakdown of how do children learn language and how did we learn how to read. And so, going into education, that's always been really an intimidating thing for me. This is my 9th year of teaching, and, going into 9th grade, going to this summer, I'd never taught a kid how to read. So it was really, really scary for me. I don't know how you feel about that, but that was kind of my perspective.
Yeah, I'm super excited to learn how to teach kids to read, because I've always wanted to help kids to read, but it's like a foreign language when they're talking about the phonics, and like it's stuff that we learned so long ago that is just engraved in us, and it's like relearning how to teach to read. So I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. Well, so on our little Zoom chat, we're just going to talk about a couple of things that stood out to us. One of the things that I really loved, and it's something that I felt really passionate about, is looking at teachers as readers. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the high school perspective, just because that's the world that I'm coming from, but some things that I haven't really thought about for elementary learners that I'm excited. As an 11th and 12th grade teacher, my kids come in and most of them have been, fake reading their whole life. They go and they look at their Spark Notes and they don't read at home because why should I? I've got all these other things going. I've got sports, I've got band, I've got whatever it is. And so getting my kids to not only just read it, but to actually enjoy reading it has been such a challenge for me. And I think the biggest or most powerful thing has been really being honest and open and sharing with them the things that I'm reading and the things that I'm really interested in and the things that I like. What about you?
Yeah, most definitely. Even as a 7th grade teacher, I push reading. But the kids always want to do the fake reading. And so even with our previous class doing the read alouds, I started implementing that, and it's helped so much. And what I've learned about kids is they really, like, when you model things, because they like to follow you. And when you do certain things, and I would especially think the elementary age kids, if they see you taking the time to read, then they're going to want to take the time to read. And we get so busy with school and work and home and doing this and that, that we ourselves as teachers don't take the time to sit down and read. And even though I'm constantly spending money on new books that I want to read, like, I can't tell you the last time I actually finished one of the books that I want to read.
The pile is so huge, right?
Yeah, definitely. And in the readings, let me see. Yeah, it even asks us, do you consider yourself an avid reader? Like, I'm embarrassed to say that, yes, I read, but I do not ever just sit down and take the time to enjoy reading. And I think that's so important and would really strengthen me as an educator, is to sit down and take the time to read.
Definitely. Well, and I'm going to be looking off a little bit because I have this, the professor authored readings pulled up on my laptop over here. Looking at teachers as readers, just a couple of things that stand out to me is teachers as readers talk with students about their reading lives. Teachers as readers let their students see them reading a variety of texts. So just even those two, I mean, there's 13 points, but just those two in particular. I tell my kids at the beginning of the year about my Goodreads account. I don't know if you have ever heard of that or if you have one. So it's like social media for book readers. And so you can make a little online book list of what I've read, what I want to read, what I'm currently reading. You can do reading challenges and stuff. And so one of the things that I tell them, I'm like, you're welcome to follow me on that because I want to know what you're reading. I want to see, is there something that you're reading? And when they tell me, this is a really fun talking point, they're like, Miss Deering, I don't have time to read. I'm in AP literature, for crying out loud. Like, I'm reading what you're telling me to. And I was like, well, I'm teaching that, but I'm also reading. And what I've noticed is, especially with, adjusting to graduate school, it's like I have my week window between classes and we go to Barnes and Noble like that Saturday. And my husband makes fun of me. He's like, what books are you going to get? And I get my fun books for that like week within school. So I think too, looking at that last point, teachers as readers teach passionately. I think that when we're engaging in something that we are personally interested in, because I mean, all teachers are like, yeah, I'm interested in my kids. And that's true. But like when we're actually talking about something that we feel passionately about, the kids will latch on to those things. And mine in high school, they make fun of me, but it's in like a good, sweet way. Like Deering's going to geek out because we're doing Hamlet and she says Hamlet like every 5 minutes. Like she's so excited. But they want to be part of that conversation. They want to have that connection with you, especially elementary kids. They love having that teacher-student connection. They want to feel special. And when you have that, oh, you read that book? I love that book. That's a great book. They feel that relational connection, I think.
Oh, definitely. And it's so important to build that relationship with your students. I was fortunate to learn that early on, that until you can build that strong relationship with your students, learning's not going to take place, no matter as much as you try to force it. And you can still be, I'm very hard on them, but at the end of the day, they know that I love them and I'm doing whatever is best for them, even if it's telling them 100 times a day, you need to read your book. Like, you're done, read your book. You're done, read your book. And at the end of the year, when results came out, they were able to see, oh, there was a reason why she kept pushing me to read. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing it myself. And that's what I really loved about the readings. And another thing I want to jump into, because I think we have a few more minutes, is talking about the reciprocal process between the reading and the writing. Because I've always had a passion for writing. Even since I was little, I would write my mom notes instead of actually talking to her a lot. And so I'm learning the connection between reading and writing is just, it's a light bulb moment. And I think it's also important to think of not just teachers as readers, but teachers as writers too, and taking the time to write on your own as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think I loved reading that. I'm looking at it right now, that looking at reading and writing supporting each other. And I think that, when I taught third grade, when we did a block schedule, and so we had one person doing just mathematics for an hour and a half. We had one person doing just language arts for an hour and a half. And then for me, I taught science, social studies, and writing. I was the only person teaching the writing instruction. And I feel like that does such a disservice to our kids, because even though they need isolated writing instruction, they're learning to compartmentalize that writing, and they're learning that writing is not connected to reading or to math or to whatever. And so what I tried to do in my class is to incorporate writing with the two other contents that I taught, whether we're writing a lab report and then we're doing different conferences over something like that, or whether we're looking at a character in social studies, and doing something fun like that. But man, it blew my mind looking at how you can utilize student writing in your reading instruction. I don't know why.
I love
Yeah, and it showed like the samples of, here's the student writing, and here's what you can tell about the way that they are learning to read based on the writing sample. I was like, oh my God.
One of my favorite things to do is, like, when we read A Sound of Thunder, I like to let them debate first. And I always tell them, you're not wrong. It's okay to have a difference of opinions, but someone's not wrong just because they have a different opinion. It's very important to respect other opinions. And so we'll debate, and then they'll turn around and they'll write a paper over, like, the butterfly effect, and whether or not they think, just changing one little tiny thing can really alter your future. So again, learning to marry those two, the reading and writing, that was just a total light bulb moment.
Well, absolutely. And there was this other part at the very, very beginning of the text, and it says that reading is thinking guided by print, and writing is using print to guide the thinking of others. I loved it. I loved it. And I think that, one thing that I did this year that I've never done before is I used blogging for my kids. I'm really trying to work on being a more digitized digital literacy classroom for my 11th and 12th graders. And so I created a blog for myself, and I showed them how to write different things. And then I gave them a very loose rubric, but I gave them free reign. Like, if you want to write about cooking, write about cooking. If you want to do tutorials for computer science stuff that I don't understand, go for it. And one thing that was really, really cool is a couple of my students said during, like, when you would ask us to write about big ideas, there are so many things I didn't know that I thought until after I finished writing my blog post. Like, during the election season, we wrote about some of, yeah, I know, Jesus. But we talked about how to articulate our opinions in a very respectful and inappropriate way online, and how to invite comments to enter into a dialogue without it being, troll city. And so a lot of them were like, my parents have always thought this, and I really thought that I resonated with that. But until I started writing about it myself, I realized that maybe I disagree with a couple of those things. And I think that really reinforces the cognition and the metacognition, the thinking about your thinking, when you're writing, not just for a finished product, but you're writing to learn.
Yeah, most definitely, because when you're writing, you're actually reading and comprehending your own thoughts. So I think that's so cool to actually take your own thoughts and put them on paper, and then you're able to reanalyze everything that's going on. And that's so important for our kids to know how to do.
Well, I think too, just as a whole idea, I feel like this text, I really, really love it. So props to Dr. Symingson for choosing this textbook. I love the reality that it talks about, looking at the types of literacy, and it's important that we're not only just teaching kids how to read and teaching them how to write, we're teaching them how to be functional citizens in society. In order to have a voice in the world, you have to be able to write, and you have to be able to read, and becoming an effective digital citizen, an effective just literate citizen in society.
Yeah, definitely. I have to admit, it's kind of scary because I thought I knew about digital things, but I had no clue that there's so much out there. But I'm definitely working on educating myself so I can help my students.
For sure. And I think one thing that I've just kind of, sorry, like I'm so distracted by the glare in my glasses. I'm like moving my head around. One thing that I've tried to do, because we have to do so many tech trainings, Mansfield, where I work, it's very much technology driven district. Like the high school students, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Every kid has an iPad issued by the district.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Because, the kids that say, I don't have a computer at home, like you have something. So it's intimidating though, because you go to a training and you get 30 different apps that you could use or different things. And every year they come out with new things. So what I try to do is I try to pick like two, I try to pick two that I'm like, realistically, can I learn how to do this efficiently enough that I can teach my students? And am I doing it just for technology's sake, or is it actually going to enhance what I'm doing in my classroom? Yeah. So I know how to do lots of things on the surface, but what I actually use, you know what I mean? I use things that I feel like are going to be beneficial for our kids to use as they go through school. It's going to help them. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and it's also too showing our kids that we're not just a teacher, but we're a learner as well. You're a lifelong learner. It's not something that just once you graduate high school or once you graduate college, you're done. Okay, I've learned everything I need to know. But showing them that you are human and you'll make mistakes and you might try something and, 2 weeks into it, you're like, okay, I don't really like that anymore.
We're going to cut that.
I love being able to show them that I'm human as well, and that I'm going to make mistakes.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think that, kids appreciate the effort, even if it's not successful. To me, I think of it even just like a foreign language. If I have a student who speaks Spanish and I can speak, un poquito español, and I make an effort to engage with them, even if I'm wrong, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I feel like the same applies with technology. When I'm trying to get on their level, if I'm trying to talk to them about social media in a way, Facebook for high school kids is irrelevant, and hardly any of them have a Facebook because their mom has a Facebook. So I try to learn Snapchat, and they think it's stupid and hilarious when I show them, like, look, I put the doggy filter on there, but they appreciate it. They appreciate that I'm trying.
And it really helps with building a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It all goes back to that. So I'm so excited about this class. I really feel like I'm going to learn so much that will not only help in an elementary setting, but it'll help in a high school setting. It'll help in any kind of setting, really, because as we know, we have struggling readers of all ages. So this will help us build that foundation in order to build the house.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. It's been great chatting with you, Michelle, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we are ending our Zoom chat now. Cheers. Finish the week strong.